the record button, and then I'm just going to pass it over to Dave. So Dave, over to you.
Shona, can you hear me okay?
Yes, Dave, we can hear you.
Right, thank you.
If you do start to get feedback, guys, it would be good if you just kept your microphone on mute, and that will stop any feedback that might come through.
Okay.
Okay, Dave.
Right, thanks, Shona. As many of you might know me, some might not. My name's Dave Cairns. I'm a level 4 endurance official, and I'm a volunteer with Scottish Athletics. My role at Scottish Athletics is really organising the endurance officials for Scottish Championships, etc. I also on the Road and Cross Country Commission and the UKA Endurance Officials Education Subgroup. So that's my background. And tonight's presentation is going to be on refereeing endurance events. Now, I know there's a lot out there that are probably more experienced than me, but so don't be too critical, guys. Hopefully everybody will take something from it. Okay, so we'll press on. Right, what are the endurance events? So going back to the very basics, we've got road running, cross country, fell. These are the basic events. We're going to concentrate here primarily on road running and cross country events, but obviously fell and hill have additional health and safety rules that you've got to follow for their events. Race walking might be considered to be an endurance event, but you've got to have specialist training for that, so that's definitely excluded from tonight's presentation. So, points to note. We're talking here tonight about just doing domestic and national events, championships, etc. licensed by the home countries. And these events must be under UKA rules. If you are at higher level and obviously involved with the international events, you're going to have an ITO there. That's an international technical official who will effectively fulfill the role of the referee. So, what is the referee's role? Primarily, you want to oversee a fair and safe competition. That's why you're there. There's a lot involved in doing that, but that's primarily what you do. You need to liaise with all the chief officials and the organisation committee members that you're going to have to deal with on the day. They might have their own rules for the competition, so it might be to do with prizes and stuff like that, or as I said earlier on, the hill running and fell running where you've got the additional safety requirements. You need to liaise with the registration results so that make sure that all the relevant information has been exchanged and we're all singing from the same hymn sheet. Resolving any disputes. You've got to, at the end of the competition, you've got to approve the results prior to publication. Might be a good idea to do these provisional results before you actually issue them as final results. Let people have their chance to chip in with, oh my man, they lost his chip and we didn't get him recorded in the place, and complete the documentation of any records that are set. If it's national or international competitions, you might have international or world records. And reporting any notifiable accident instance fatalities, that's one that's not, it's often a put on the referee's shoulders to do that, but it's not, it doesn't necessarily have to be the referee that does the reporting of that, but we'll come on to that later. And at the end of the day, you need to produce an event report, which is, in my book, a glorified debrief, summary of any debriefing that's done. So it keeps everything together in one place for easy reference the next time you're doing it, the event. So how do you ensure fair competition? So you're independent, so you shouldn't be a member of the organising, the race organisation committee or have any major input there. You must remain independent of all that, and you must be impartial on the day. So forget your club allegiances when you're refereeing. And you make sure that the UK rules are followed.
No.
And remember, when you're doing that, you didn't write the rules, you're just trying to implement them. So, the safe competition. Presumably, you've all read the UK health and safety guidance. So, but there's a link up there which we can, if you get the material later on, you'll be able to access that link to the guide, to the health and safety guidance. There's also guidance from the home countries might provide you guidance on organising athletics events. And then you'll need to liaise with the race organiser to review all the setup, competitive event, competition event plan, which may have been prepared or should have been prepared for submission to local authorities, etc. Associated risk assessments, first aid and emergency arrangements, they're of prime importance and a requirement of the licensing as well. You want to check out what the start, course and finish area arrangements are. It all depends on the scale of your event, obviously, but you need to make sure the start's wide enough to accommodate everybody. If it's a major city centre marathon or something like that, you're going to have wave starts. So there's all these things to think about. Similarly, at the finish, how wide's the finish? What are the arrangements? Are you going to segregate women and men or whatever? So there's a lot of unknowns that you need answers to. You want to get a list of your officials so you know who you're working with and who the chief officials are, obviously. And the entry list of the runners. Make sure you've got a good idea who's going to be in the start line, the numbers that are going to be there. That's a major issue. It's in cross country when you've got all the different age groups, it can be a benefit as well, just to know how many is going to be in each of your race or potentially in each of your races. And at the end of the day, you've got to oversee the competition. And you, like with respect to the health and safety issues at cross country, you're going to have things that have maybe not been spotted that you're picking up on the day. So you really need to make the organiser aware of these. You're going to apply UK and local competition rules. So there's a link on the UK website. You'll find that the competition and technical rules there, and I say that's a link in there that will be on the documentation afterwards. Home countries might have additional rules for their championships. Any specific rules that the organisers have, regarding team prizes. They might have different allocations of team prizes than your normal two. Perhaps, for example, they might do placings, an order of placings, or perhaps an overall time. I've seen races where they've done the cumulative times of the qualifying athletes in the team to provide the result. These are things that you need to get clarified from your organiser. We've been in that, the Felton Hill running with a full body cover. So the UK rule books, it's not an easy document to navigate. It incorporates the World Athletic rules, and with the UK rules in purple. They're highlighted in purple for ease of reference of the UK rules. And then the interpretation of the World Athletics rules is given in green. They're highlighted in green. So it's a multicoloured document. There are three main sections: the competition rules, the technical rules, and the general rules. And then there's the additional appendices at the end. I don't think Appendix 2 and 3 are now, there's anything in there at the moment. So the competition rules, that's the ones that are really relevant, is the licensing, and then the competition officials there in part 2, and how to record records. And there's a wee supplement for ultra events. They come under General Rule 9, which we'll come to later. Rules T1 to 13, that's all the rules about age and sex categories, entries, trail race entries, giving you all the clothing, shoes, bibs, mixed competition. They're all in these rules there. And then you've got the specific TR55 for road races, and cross-country, mountain and trail races in 56 and 57. And that includes supplements for the Felton Hill trail racing in the UK. Okay, so far the general rules. G1 to 8, they're all the anti-doping and betting and payment to athletes, etc. And G9 there is the ultra distance road and track. It comes under G9. There's quite a lot in there for your ultra stuff. And that would apply to off-road as well. Then your Appendix 4 there is the endurance running, and that covers all the further information on all the disciplines that you're likely to encounter. Resolving disputes, that's the trickiest part of the job. TRA outlines the protests and appeals process. So you receive the rule on any issues, you've got to try and get them sorted out, and you're trying to do it as quick and as comfortable as you can. If your decision isn't accepted, then the protester has the right to go to your national association, that would be your home country, whether it's Scotland, England, Northern Ireland or Wales. And they might set up a panel to consider the protest and take it from there. But generally, you've got the final say on matters on the day. World Athletics do provide a jury of appeal, you know, which on the day of the race, but they're not generally done in the UK, although some races still do incorporate a jury of appeal. So that's something else you need to sort out beforehand, so you're aware of all the processes involved. But as I say, predominantly the referee has the final say. So, approving results. Before any prizes or anything are presented, you're wanting to see the results. The organisers should come to you with the results to get the initial prize winners ticked off, and the team results as well, you know, to make sure that you're not scrutinising the full results. Obviously, you're just having to take the initial ones to achieve the prize presentations and to keep everything rolling along. I reckon it's always worthwhile, once you've seen the results, you can certainly post them up, whether it's on the day, you know, pinning it to a wall, or some of the systems that we use now, the results come out live on the day. So there's plenty of opportunities there for people to raise any issues. You know, if somebody lost a chip, or you know, somebody missing out the results, but they had their chip on, and you know, you get all sorts of things coming. So you have to then go ahead and try and gather all the information that you can before inserting people back in. So you've always got to address all these issues and all the available evidence that you can correlate, just to keep you moving along there. Following resolution and agreement of any protests and appeals, because this can carry on beyond the actual day of the race. You can get a lot of appeals coming in post-race, so the organiser will then have to forward these on to you for a decision. So once all these issues have been resolved, you know, you can, if somebody's lost a chip in the race, but you can gain maybe the video at the finish line, you might be able to slot them back in a realistic position. So once you've resolved all the issues that have been raised, you can then approve the results, and they can be published as final results. This is the one for where, as I say, it's normally assumed that the referee will do this, but it's got to be clarified who does it. The reporting guidance there again is on UK website, and that'll be a link that you'll see in the document that'll circulate. And there's another one there to the actual reporting forms. But they say that anyone who has witnessed or been involved can report an accident or incident. So it isn't just down to the referee, but primarily it should either be the organiser, the referee, or somebody designated to report it. I don't know if anybody's had any issues with reporting, but I think they're tightening up a wee bit on what you've got to report now. Okay, any questions so far at all, Shona? No.
No, none at the moment in the chat.
Right.
If I could just ask anybody who's only given me a first name or an iPad number, if they could even send me a chat with their surname, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Pass back to Dave.
Right, so that's the basic background to the role and where you find the rules and where everything's located. But it moves on to how do you do it? How do you actually implement the role of the referee? So pre-race, you've got a wee bit of work to do there. I must say, the work that you do pre-race can often help you eliminate awkward decisions on the day. You know, if you're faced with having to disqualify somebody, you can often avoid that happening if you take care, particularly at cross country with the setting of the cross country course and that. But you want to liaise with the organisers. But again, as I said earlier on, you've got to remain independent. You might prepare a checklist of items, you know, be specific to an event. Obviously, there's no endless generic list that you can do, but you just have to think objectively about the event, and basically you're looking for what can go wrong, aren't you? I've done a few examples of checklists that you might want to consider, but they're by no means exhaustive. So it's a general stuff. You want the license number because it's a UK licensed home country licensed event. You want to know the course map and the competitors' instructions. What have they been told? The event plan, the risk assessment, and first aid. Need to make sure that there is adequate first aid cover involved, or provided anyway. Is it manual timing or chip timing? You know, basic things that, turn up in the day and say, didn't know it was going to be chip timed. You know, don't want that to happen. Start and finish arrangements, touched on that earlier on, just about the width of starts. It depends on the numbers of runners you got. Is it wave starts, or is there disabilities? You know, the wheelchair athletes there, have you got to make special provision for the start? The list of the key personnel, at least, so you know who to agree the procedures with. Course map, instructions, briefings, signage. For the marshals, that is, what instructions have been given. There'll be radio allocations as well for communication around the course. So all these things have got to be confirmed. Course and first aid communication. How are any incidents in the course getting communicated to the first aid team? Are the first aid teams spread around the course, or are they just at the start, finish? Again, all depends on the size of your event. You want the entry lists, as I said earlier on, so you know how many folk are going to be there in the races, or well, there won't be that. Generally, I find there's probably about a 30% dropout from pre-entered races, but it gives you a good idea of what size the event is. It also, to make sure that you're qualified to referee that event, you know, the TV coverage can impact significantly on timings of races. You find that if you're involved with any races with TV coverage, it's the producer that dictates the timing. Oh, we've got an advert break here, you'll need to wait. That's some additional points for road races. Your road closures, the policing, you've probably attended a SAG, a Safety Advisory Group meeting beforehand and got everything agreed with them, what signage they're providing, what signage you've got to provide. Are you allowed to put barriers out? Or you want to make sure that all the local transport, buses, taxis, etc., have all been notified that the event's going to be on and what the road closures are, so that you're not faced with buses trying to drive through your start line. Emergency vehicle access, that's pretty speaks for itself. You've got to have procedures in place, and you've got to be aware of what the procedures are. It's questions to ask to make sure that everything's covered. If it's a road race, it's of an advertised distance, you need a course measurement certificate and confirmation that it's up to date and the course hasn't changed from the measured course. I think the certificates themselves are valid for 10 years, but you or the race organisers should confirm that there's no changes to that measurement. And then obviously for record purposes, you're looking for an altitude drop from the start to the finish. Is it within your 1 in 1,000? As a big events, you're going to have the course set up into sectors with sector marshals controlling the marshals, the course marshals in his area, his or her area. And also you're going to have water stations, feed stations. They all need specifically addressed. See, it's not your job to do any of that, but you've got to be aware it's happening. If you're on events with closed roads, you've got to make sure that your marshals can get to their allocated stations, and the officials, of course. And there'll also probably be a lead vehicle and a course sweep arrangements, whether it's a vehicle or runners, cyclists, whatever, somebody following the last runner round. I remember being involved in one race where there was a marathon. A couple of women had gone in for a pub lunch on the halfway around and then came out, wondered why the course was cleared, which was a bit of a shock to everybody, finding that it was 2 folk an hour behind the sweep vehicle.
Dave, I have a question in the chat.
Yeah.
It says, with the chip timing and results, clarify when the gun time versus chip time is used, e.g. gun time overall results with perhaps chip timing for age group awards.
Yeah, well, it depends on what the organizer has decided, but for you're doing gun to chip generally for any of your races that you're doing, whether it's cross country or road races, it would be gun to chip for deciding the positions for the prizes, but they provide the chip times for the runners' information, basically. But you wouldn't adjust the positions on the chips unless it was a race. You see a lot of races that are out there that are just done on chip, and their wave started of people of mixed abilities. So yeah, I've seen results with just the chip timings used as well. But generally in a point-to-point race, it would be gun to chip. Would you agree, Graham?
Generally, cross-country races are gun to chip, but on the road races, when you've got thousands of runners, they go gun to chip to chip.
Yeah.
You've got a gun time to start with, which is the winning time, and then you've got your own time when you go over the mat at the start and at the finish. So
Yes.
I've not seen that operated across country, but it's usually straight gun to chip. But in
Yeah.
road races, it's gun to chip, generally, not always.
Yeah. I think that's what I was trying to say.
And
Okay.
another question, how can we check the turnaround points are in line with the course map, as this is most likely reasons why the course distance is wrong?
Is this in an out and back course?
Don't know.
Well, obviously that depends.
Yes, it's saying yes.
Yes, aye. That depends on the course marking, obviously, and the marshalling to ensure that the runners run the full distance. You know, if there's if it's a half marathon and somebody comes in 50 minutes, well, you're going to ask a few questions, aren't you? So, yeah.
Well, that's where your course measurement certificate comes in, because it should tell you on there where the actual turning point is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I've been through the additional checklist there for road races. Just say these are just, and there's some for cross country. A landowner's permission. Are you sure that you've got permission to run over their land? And how are you going to do your emergency access? You know, that's particularly pertinent to off-road hill ultra races, fell races, where you know, you might need to have mountain rescue out there as well with radio or even contact for helicopters. You might even on road races, you might find that there's communication black spots if you're using radios or mobile telephones. Yeah. You might have black spots, so you need to ensure that ask that question as well as the course being checked out for black spots. That would actually still apply with the road as well. Water and feed stations, you might have them in ultra events. You know, ultra events now covers a multitude of sins. You know, you think ultra events as being long and flat, but you know, I refereed an ultra event a couple of years ago, and it had 2 Munros in it, so 2 mountains to climb in the course of their 60-odd mile event. Checkpoints, cut-off times. You know, particularly in the longer races, there will be checkpoints to record everybody. That's health and safety apart from anything else. And your cut-off times as well, where the runners are asked not to continue if they're beyond, because you've got to, the organiser have got to also have consideration of their marshals that are standing out there in all weathers, maybe at the top of Cairns waiting on a runner that's an hour and a half behind the rest of the field. It's not fair in these guys. And how you're going to sweep the course to make sure that everybody has finished. You want to have all these things on your list. That's just a few points. As I say, it's by no means exhaustive. So that was pre-race. Now we're moving on to what you do on the day of the race. That's the most pertinent thing. You've got to remember that you're not in charge of the race. The race organizer is in charge and he has overall responsibility. So if there's anything that you see that you're not happy with, you must speak to him. You don't go up and instruct a marshal to change something that he's been told. That should come through the proper channels. You meet the event organizer and chief on the day and all try and get round all the key officials so you're agreeing how everything's going to operate. Sorry. I see you want to check with your registration results team. It might have all been pre-entered and already loaded up, but if you're at a race that's taking entries on the day, you want to make sure that all the entrants are on the software for processing the results. Gone are the good old days where you did all that manually. Inspect and agree the start and finish areas. You know, the start area, you might have the start line, obviously. You might have an assembly line a couple of meters back from the start line. You want to make sure that everything that's been agreed is implemented. The width of the start, and as I said before, the wave starts, whatever alternatives that there are. Agree the false start procedures with the starter. Of course, we don't have false starts at cross country, do we? Right, it's a good idea if you're fit enough to walk the course with the clerk of the course or an assistant, or delegate an assistant. You might have an assistant on the day, so perhaps the assistant could walk the course and you could be looking at the start and finish and stuff like that. But you want to walk the course because that particularly at cross-country races, you can eliminate an awful lot of embarrassing protests and appeals and counter appeals and counter protests if you try and ensure that the course is set out so that there's no ambiguity in the runners' minds when they're coming round there about which side of the tape they're on, for example. Say that you are a fresh pair of eyes. I've always found when, myself included, if you're setting a cross-country course, you know what you're doing. So you know where the athlete's supposed to go and you think it's obvious, but you need a fresh pair of eyes coming round totally cold to say, well, they could go to the right-hand side of that tape, not the left. And then you've got to look at ways of eliminating that risk. Again, for road races, you want to do a drive round in a big city centre race. You're not going to do that in the morning of the race. You're going to do that prior to the race to familiarise yourself with the course, but then to check that all the points have been covered in the Marshall plan and the signage. You need to oversee the race starts. I say starts because of cross country, you'd have multiple races with age groups and stuff, and to ensure that they're conducted in a fair and safe manner. Again, you want to, for similar reasons, you want to check out the race finish, oversee the race finish. Sometimes it's hard to do that if, like, for example, at cross-country races, that's where you need an assistant referee as well. So one of you can do the start and one of you can do the finish because they're probably going on at the same time and be a lot of overlap. Again, on the race day, once the races are over, you're doing a quick check of the medal winners and the teams. So that day might be subject to change if subsequent protests, or if somebody chip hadn't fired, for example, and they've not been shown the results. That can often be a bit of an embarrassment. But what you have to do there is, if that does get highlighted to you after you've approved the results, you then go and do the checks that you can check on the video. You know, most of the chip tying guys, they'll have the video camera going as well as whatever backup you've got. That way you can check their finishing position and check if it affects the team result, for example. Then you've got to resolve any disputes. You know, you might get athletes saying, "Oh, he stepped off the course." You know, there's a lot of the time the rules are there, but a lot of the time, or some of the times anyway, you find they can be in conflict with what you're actually faced with. You know, somebody left the course, right? Okay, they're liable to be disqualified. Did they gain any advantage by leaving the course? So yeah, you've got to try and be a bit sensible as well. So that was on race day. So a few chats in there, Shona.
Sorry, yep, just take myself off mute. At the end, our country road race championships are often incorporated in open races. These races might...
Oh. Sorry, can you guys hear me? I've lost, you've gone mute, Shona.
Sorry, I'll put you back on. Sorry, that was me.
Yep. Sorry, I didn't catch the end of that.
Yep, so at the end of our county championship, road race championships are often incorporated in open races. These races might be licensed by ARC, sorry, whereas the county event is under, let me scroll down a wee bit, sorry, is under the UK rules. I have been asked to referee such an event because I am the road running subcommittee overseeing the championships.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't finish the question. Begin, it is okay as UK officials to be referee. Is it okay for UK officials to be referee for an event that is not licensed
Well,
by UKA? This is currently being dedicated within our county.
right, so it wouldn't be a UK championship event.
No, so only the first part would be, the county one would be under UK rules, but the second part is under ARC. So is that still covered?
Aye, but if it's a county championship, it must be under UK rules, therefore it must be licensed, no? No, perhaps not. I'm not quite sure what the ARC issue is. Graham, could I possibly ask you to step in there?
The county championship must be under UKA rules, and therefore it must be a licensed official to referee.
Yeah.
I can't see where ARC, because if they got a license from UKA, why do they want a license from ARC? But anyway, he can referee an ARC event, but it cannot count as record of experience. But yep, yes, if you know, ARC is nothing to do with UKA. The county championships under UKA rules, and that's go ahead. But if they've got a license for those events, I should imagine the other one will have the same license. But I mean, sometimes you get ARC events stand on their own, and then that's a matter of whether you go and referee that or not. But it cannot go on your record of experience.
Yeah, it sounded a bit of a conflict. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that answers the question. If not, just come back to us.
Can I just come in on that?
Yep.
The point, it's something that's come up recently that we have for some time been incorporating our races within, should we say, other open races, and if you like, half of these races up until now have been UKA licensed, but we realise that some now have been ARC licensed, and we're now questioning whether we should incorporate them anymore in this. And I wondered if you had an opinion on such things. It's obviously, it is of concern now that if it's a county championship, it should be a UK licensed race. That's the current opinion. I just wondered if you had an opinion about it.
Well, that was my understanding of if it's a championship race, it's got to be a licensed event, a UK or home country licensed event. Is there any more?
No, that's it just now.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, cheers. Right, we'll move on to the how is it done on post-race. Say we've checked off and signed the final results. Review, debrief from the race organiser. You know, there might be stuff that he's had feedback from his marshals or officials that you're not aware of, but which might be relevant to your report that you're going to be writing. So you need to know, collect as much information as you can. Give it a week or two before you publish your report. Give it time for this information to feed back to you. Report any breaches of the race licence to the licensing authority. Now, that's something that the organiser wouldn't be very happy with. Obviously, that's why you've got to be independent. You prepare the referee's report on the event and then have it published at wherever it's going to. Okay, so that's really the presentation on the actual role of the referee. But you might, how do you become a referee would be the next question. So you need to be a minimum level 2 and have done the level 2 endurance self-taught module, the referee module. A level 4, obviously, it goes into a lot more depth and leads you into international competition. So if you're thinking about progressing up to level 4, you really need to have quite a bit of experience. Different types and scales of event. You've got to be able to understand the problems that everybody's having. You've really got, I feel anyway, this is a personal in my part, but I feel that you've got to have experienced all the various roles that there are. I started off getting pitched in as the race organiser for our own club 10K race, where I was relatively new into athletics, so that was a steep learning curve for a start. Then I got involved with the Edinburgh Marathon and stuff like that as a sector marshal, and then really organiser and stuff. So you've got to get experience a lot of different sized and types of events, because I say cross country is totally different from road running, so you've got to try and cross the barriers that are between them. Well, not barriers, the bridges. Seek an experienced mentor. You know, see, when I first moved into doing officiating, I sought out one of the senior officials and asked them if he would keep me straight as I went through the system. So, see, under your level 4 qualification, there's a module on mentoring as well. Shadow an experienced referee and learn from their experiences. And don't be afraid to ask questions. If there's anything that's happening that you don't know, that there's no such thing as a stupid question if you don't know the answer. And 9 times out of 10, you'll find that everybody else has thought the same but didn't want to ask the question. So who can referee at endurance events? And there's your level 2. That's what your criteria are. And you've got to have done your race referee self-taught module. which is compulsory under level 2. So the rules changed a couple of years ago about that, where they took the referee module out of being an optional one and put it into level 2. At level 3, it's the criteria that you can cover. At cross country, that's the total number of runners on the day, not in an event. Not in a race, I should say, an individual race. And level 4. Okay, so
So Dave, yeah, so a couple of questions. One from Sarah. Can I ask when races have to have a referee?
licensed races need a referee. That's what's in the guidelines. It's a part of the UK conditions, I think, for the insurance as well. However, it's not always easy to implement or to source a referee. So speak to your home country athletic federation and check what their how accommodating they would be the only advice I could really give there.
Yep, and Peter's asking, most cross-country events that I go to have no officials other than the referee. I guess from my point of view, if I want to answer that one, this is what we're trying to address by putting on more endurance courses. Certainly within Scotland, we're trying to address that, because we do appreciate that we're playing catch up with the endurance officials on trying to get people through qualifications and get them licensed. I think we've had a band out there who've been around for a long time, doing a great job, but we just haven't brought in any new blood, and we're trying to do that now to get more people involved. I don't know if Graham or Dave want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think it's been a bit of it's fallen between the cracks from the pre-2011 when we brought in the formal training pathways. Prior to that, it was done by peer assessment, basically. So I think there's been a big gap in people prepared to progress their way through the more formal pathway that there is now. With respect to the older generation of officials, our experienced officials, we really need to encourage level 2s and level 3s to come through and get themselves up there. I don't know how relevant these comments were to England, Graham.
Yes, it must be the same as I say. 2011, when it changed, a lot of officials gained level 4 by grandfather rights. Well, they've passed through now, and it's now down to the youngsters that we need to bring on, because, as I say, there's so many races now that you need 3s and 4 referees, and they're hard to come by.
Yeah,
I mean, people, if a level 4 could be out every weekend and probably once in the week if he made himself available, but that's not the case, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I know in my own personal position with trying to coordinate the endurance officials in Scotland, I'm getting more and more and more applications for referees that I just can't provide. So it's something that, but I'm sure over the next couple of years we've got the ball rolling now, so just have to keep the momentum going.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not actually a referee, I'm a race director.
Right.
But I'm interested in the role of the race referee. My event, which has taken place this last weekend, is 6 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours on a 400-metre track.
Oh.
Yeah, well, that comes into the ultra, I would say.
Yeah, a lot of what we've been discussing this evening doesn't apply. obviously, you know, they're not going to get lost, for example. Now I find it very difficult to get timekeepers for a 24-hour event for obvious reasons.
Well,
I had this weekend, I had 3 timekeepers, 2 level 4s and a level 2. Now, the level 4 was also my race referee. Now, that's not an ideal situation, but is it actually permissible to have one of the timekeepers as a race referee?
I would say as long as there was somebody there to address any issues that arose. The problem with that is if he's timekeeping, he might not be able to get distracted.
Yeah. I mean, she's very, very experienced in both race refereeing and, as I say, a level 4 timekeeper.
Yeah.
But until I can get more timekeepers, it's just a very difficult situation. I've been organising the event since 2006, when it was originally 6 hours, 12 hours, but we added 24 hours on in 2017.
No,
On a practical note, I would suggest an event like that needs 2 referees, because you're not going to stay awake for 24 hours.
He does. Oh, we all do. The whole crew stay awake for 24 hours. Yeah, we have to. Oh, yeah. Sleep isn't in our dictionary when it comes to 24-hour racing.
Yeah, I've been involved in a few of these, and it's very interesting. It's very interesting how folks stay awake.
Well, I was awake for 40 hours.
Yeah.
From when I got up in the morning.
Don't drive home afterwards. That's my advice.
Yeah. No, all we can do is hope we can get more timekeepers. But
yeah, have you not considered trip timing?
There's just not enough timekeepers.
Yeah. Have you not considered trip timing?
One of my timekeepers was in his mid-80s and he stayed awake for 24 hours. You know, that's the way it is. But it's a very successful event and it raises a lot of money for charity. So
yeah.
I'm going to continue with it. But I just need to think about the future of the race, really. And, you know, if I can't get officials, the race will not exist anymore. It's very sad.
Chip timing might be a consideration.
Oh, we have to chip.
Oh, yeah, you've got that as well.
That's why we manually lap recorded it from 2006 till 2016. And then at 2016, I turned up at the morning of the race, not knowing if I'd got enough lap recorders. That was very stressful.
Yeah.
And so I looked at, you know, a way of getting around it. And because 24 hours is my first love, I've actually done 20 of them myself.
Yeah.
If we add 24 hours onto it, it would justify the cost of chip timing, which is very expensive. And yeah, we've been doing that since 2017.
Good. Well, I'm sorry, we've maybe not shown much light in your question.
I've got another question about in England, road race standards say that every licensed race must have a race adjudicator. Only championship should have a referee.
Yeah, that's done through Run Britain. So it's not something got first-hand understanding of, because we don't have adjudicators in Scotland. But I think for championships you still need a referee, don't you, Graham?
Yeah, that's correct. But adjudicator, if he's qualified as a referee, can referee a race up to 300 entries.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Right, thanks, folks. Just moving on to the closing remarks then. So what you've got to bear in mind that there are rules to follow, but the answers aren't always there in the rule book. You've got to try and use common sense as well, and your best judgment. Sometimes you might find that the rules conflict with what you're faced with. You know, what I said earlier on, somebody leaving the course and they've not gained any advantage by doing so. Are you going to disqualify them because they've rejoined the course?
Very topical at the moment.
Sorry?
Very topical at the moment.
Yeah, right.
You must have heard what happened. Yeah. In Manchester to Leeds. Yeah.
No,
One
I
of the
did.
top ultra distance runners in the UK.
Oh yes,
Peated.
yes.
Yeah.
I've read the articles. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good.
No.
But there you go. It happens.
So you've got to be sensible, understanding, use your best judgment. The worst thing you ever have to do is disqualify somebody. I've had to do it a couple of times, and it's horrible. It's a horrible feeling to have to disqualify, particularly if it's through something that the athlete's not even aware that they've done. You know, running the wrong side of a tape round a bend, and you know. However, saying that about disqualifying people, my very first venture into refereeing, I was refereeing relays, and I warned a club who the runner went out on his second leg. The runner had done the first leg and he was doing the third leg, and I said, if you finish and go through the funnel, your team's disqualified. And he finished and went through the funnel. So. So that was my first experience of disqualification. So, but he took that as a badge of honour that it had the team disqualified. By doing your homework and anticipating what might go wrong, you can often avert having to make these awkward decisions, difficult decisions. No matter how difficult it is, though, you've got to try and be positive and make them quickly. You can't have folk left hanging around. And every day is a school day. Okay, thank you very much, folks.
Yeah, thanks. Very interesting. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
hope you all managed to get the Scottish dialect. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
We'll open the floor for any questions, guys. If anyone's got any questions for Dave or even for Graham, who can help with more of the England questions.
Yeah, could I maybe ask more of the Scottish question? I'm based in Orkney and I am a race director for a few events here. And as far as I'm aware, none of the events in Orkney have referees coming up to it, nor are there any endurance referees available in Orkney. And obviously with travel issues too, our races are run under UK athletics permits. So I'm just kind of wondering, you know, is this something that we really need to address quickly?
I think that's probably one for the events team, Shona.
Yeah, I mean, it is something we're trying to address. We do appreciate that the outlying areas of the whole of the UK, it's a challenge, you know, which is the same further down in Devon and further down again in Cornwall. So it is something we're trying to address, and that's why within Scotland we're running more courses and trying to do courses locally if we can. So we do have a course in Fraserburgh. I know it's still far away from Orkney, but
I guess my bigger question more is, as a race director, whose responsibility is it to make sure that it's the referee? You know, is that something that lies with Scottish Athletics, or is that something that lies with myself?
It does lie with the race director. If you're putting an event on and you're running it under UK rules, then that's part of the licence criteria.
Okay. And the other question is, you know, because I think the bigger issue is, it's, you know, as a race director in a small area, I'm aware that I'm having to do a lot of organisation, and I can't, you know, I was asked to come along to this meeting tonight, but we need separate people to be referees if we're going to have people locally, and there's just not that number. So I just want to highlight that as a concern, not as a question perhaps.
Yeah.
But thank you for your time tonight.
Yep, no problem.
You need to send Adam Holland on a referee's course.
Well, he's also on an even smaller island in Orkney than the mainland. So he's even more geographically isolated, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to start giving something back to the sport, I think. I've known him many, many, many years.
Any others?
if I could just say something,
Yeah.
I'm obviously very new to officiating. I'm only a level 1, so I'm working on my level 2. Do you think it's a good way by doing the modules, or do you think it would be better if we didn't have modules and had more like hands-on experience? What do you think?
Well, part of the progression thing is actually officiating out with your district or your area.
Yeah.
So that's where you gain the experience from the higher qualified officials.
Right. So do you think it's a good way to keep going on the modules that I'm doing at the moment?
Yeah.
I do cross country really, and I do track. Well, I do timekeeping on the track then, so I'm doing a lot of timekeeping.
I would say it's a mixture of both. So the online modules are going to give you the knowledge, but you know, there's nothing beats hands-on experience. So the more hands-on experience you can get, then I would say the better. Because you're learning from your peers, and you can get shadowing, mentoring from gaining that hands-on experience. But the modules will give you the basic knowledge.
So it works with both, a bit of both, really.
Yeah, definitely both, definitely. And we're always here, you know, if you have any questions at any time, or you're struggling with anything, or want a mentor, or just to answer a question, then myself and Dave are always here to help.
Yeah.
You know, within
my email address, the Scottish Athletics one's there on that last slide there. So I either myself or Shona, but you'll get Shona's address on the Scottish Athletics webpage.
Oh, right, okay.
So it's just Shona Malcolm at scottishathletics.org.uk. So it's just the same, but just Shona Malcolm.
Right, okay.
No dots in mine, just carry on, just the name.
Yeah.
I see.
And these general questions, even just to the events team, wouldn't that be Shona?
Yep.
Just quickly, David, I see you're level 4. You'd be most welcome at the Crawley track race next year. It's close to Gatwick Airport. You can fly in.
Are you paying my expenses?
I probably could. Yeah.
It's an ultra event. I could run down there.
Yeah, we had a Welsh 24-hour record set this weekend just gone. The record was from 2010.
That's
and we
good.
had a Welsh runner ran 160 miles, which was excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, we need more level 4 officials.
Yeah, well, it's a common complaint.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of the younger level 4s in Scotland. I'm 73 now.
Really? Yeah. There you go. You don't look it. Anyway, I better let you
Oh,
go.
you're trying to sweet talk me into coming down.
Oh, it'd be lovely. Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah. Do you know Adrian Stott?
Yes, very well.
Talk to him about it.
Yeah, I know Adrian very well.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
So just to say, guys, that we have recorded the session, so it will be available as well as the PowerPoint going forward. So we'll try and get it on all the websites, England Athletics as well as Welsh Athletics and Scottish Athletics and Ireland Athletics as well, if they want that. So it will be available as well as a PowerPoint. I'd just like to thank you for your time tonight. If there's any last questions, we'll take them.
Okay.
No last questions. So I'd just say thank you to Dave for delivering. Thanks to Graham for helping on a lot of the England questions that we struggle with. But we are working in partnership, and hopefully that's a good partnership across the board. So just thanks again, and thank you all for attending. And I do hope you got something out of tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very
Cheers,
much.
Dave. And so now I'll sign off now. All the best. Cheers.
Okay.
Thanks, Graham. Bye.
Thank you, Graham.
Thanks,
Bye.
David. Shona. Bye-bye.
Night, Mark.